So to kind of end the night, we're going to talk about retreat, and I'll get to what that means kind of more in a minute. But overwhelmingly, a metaphor that's helped me understand silence and solitude, and John Marks mentioned it before in the teaching as well, but it's this idea of like a jar of pond water. If you think about when you were little, you were playing around a pond or a tide pool or something like that, and something hits the bottom and it stirs up, it brings up all of the silt and the mud, and it distracts you. You can't really see the bottom anymore. And I think that in many ways we are kind of like these big jars of pond water where we go and we're moving constantly, and we're disturbing the silt that's laying at the bottom, and our vision becomes not as clear. We can't quite see as clear. And so silence and solitude is much like letting that jar sit for a second and letting the silt, letting the mud kind of slowly settle to the bottom so that we can gain some clarity, gain some vision back in what we're doing. And so, but like the pond water, it takes time. So we've been practicing silence and solitude, and we're going to keep practicing it for 15 minutes, 45 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. But we want to challenge people and invite people into something maybe a little bit more. And so what we mean by retreat is specifically an 8-hour period of time. And it can be longer than that, it can be shorter than that, and so that's the caveat. Let it fit your lifestyle if you're a parent, or you have a parent in your community, specifically like a single mom or something like that. Like maybe invite her to drop her kids off at your house, and then you can let her have those 8 hours. Or if it's a married couple with kids, maybe the dad takes 4 hours and the mom takes 4 hours. So it's an invitation. It's simply give it a shot. Let it try. And so when we sit and these things start to settle, when the vision becomes a little bit clearer, we'll start to feel some things that maybe we haven't felt before. And this is a little bit of what Bethany taught on a little bit ago. But sometimes those things are scary. Sometimes it's anger or anxiety. I know for me, when I sit in a place of silence and solitude, specifically retreat, when I'm on a longer period of time, my first instinct is anxiety. It's, I don't want to be here. I have a million things to do. I could be doing something else. And it almost like I visualize myself getting up and just like running. That's okay. Press into that, lean into that. Let yourself feel that, give yourself permission to be there, and know that that's not the feeling that will overwhelm the entire 8 hours. But enter that spot. Sometimes the feelings that we'll feel are helpful. You'll realize like, gosh, I'm really tired. I need to rest a little bit more. Sometimes they're beautiful. Sometimes the Father will reveal something about who He is, and in turn, you'll get to hear a little bit about who you are. I can't tell you what will happen on your retreat specifically, but I can guarantee that those will probably all come up at some point in there. So again, it can be any period of time, but the idea is extended one chunk of time. Retreat is a furnace in which strength is forged. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked about Jesus in the wilderness in the 40 days. That was a place of strength for him. It was a place that he got the strength to then go out, and to then, for him, it was to be tempted by the enemy. It wasn't a place of weakness. And so the model is the same for us. We enter silence and solitude in an extended period of time with the idea, the goal that we will be strengthened in the Spirit. So another significant part of silence and solitude retreat is planning. It's kind of like your workday. If you show up for an 8-hour workday without anything on your mind, you probably won't make it 8 hours. And so two specific things to plan are place and time. There's something to be said about getting out of a familiar space, a space that you're used to, whether it's your bedroom, your house, and go to a place that you're unfamiliar with, whether that's a beach house that your friend owns or a cabin in the woods that you want to rent out for the day. Or we would also recommend monasteries or retreat centers around the area. There's quite a few. If you Google them, we have a list of a couple. There's Mount Angel Monastery in Mount Angel, and Manuka Retreat Center in Corbett. I really like the Trappist Abbey outside of Newburgh. They have like a day house that they will rent to you, just a room, and it's like $20 for just the day. And they have like 100 acres that you can just kind of go walk on. And the idea is get out of somewhere familiar so that you don't get stuck in those routines and you can hear more clearly from the Spirit of God. So now that everyone has a place in their mind, the question that everyone's asking is, what do I do with 8 hours? And again, like your work schedule, I don't know about you, but I sit down with a to-do list. I have a general idea of what I'm going to be doing in those 8 hours. And it's similar with silence and solitude. It's really helpful to plan something, not so that you can have a to-do list to check off, but so that you can have expectation of the ways in which the Spirit will move and shape you in this time. So we've given you in the curriculum a recommended schedule, and this is just a recommendation. Change it however you want, make it fit whatever you want. The basic tenet is kind of essentially what we've talked about with every other thing. Don't bring your cell phone. Don't bring your computer. Don't bring a TV. Even books are kind of a way to people your silence and solitude, and so we recommend not even bringing those with you. It's really helpful, if you can, to stay overnight somewhere and then start your 8-hour period of time when you wake up. That way you're not like rushing out the door and thinking about a bunch of things. So you almost are like already settled. You're ready to enter into that space. And so our schedule looks pretty simple. 8 to 9 a.m., prepare your mind and heart, take a walk, do whatever will help you set aside concerns over tasks and responsibilities. Make a list of things that you have to do so that, like, for me, when I enter into silence and solitude, I have a list of things. Gosh, I have to do this afterwards. And for me, I write them on a sticky note and I tell myself, this is where that's going to go for now and I'm going to come back to that later. It's a very, like, helpful way for me to, like, put that aside so that I can move on. This can involve breathing prayer. Just watch yourself breathe in and breathe out. And entering in, you're settling. You're watching that jar slowly start to settle and the silt all move back down to the bottom. From 9 to 11, 2 hours, read and meditate on Scripture. That can look like Lectio Divina, what Josh was just talking about. But take time to stop and reflect when God seems to be speaking something specifically to you, when something seems to like shimmer in the passage. Stop there and sit with that and see what Spirit, what do you have to say to me through that? And then spend the next hour, 11 to 12, writing those responses down to what you've read, and then speak to God about them. God, I think that this is what you're saying. Is that right? Spirit, would you open my mind? Would you open my imagination to see, to hear, to know if that's actually what you're saying? 12 to 1, eat lunch, take an hour, eat lunch, walk around, reflect on the morning. It's kind of like the halfway point. Think to yourself, how has the morning been going? How is this afternoon going to be going? And then take an hour to take a nap, resting in the Lord. So 1 to 2 p.m., we have take a nap. If that ends up going to 2:30, that's fine. Obviously, you need it. Remember that Elijah thing starts out with rest. 2 to 3, set goals that emerge from the day's reflection. So as you've gone through and you've spent time listening to the Spirit of God and reading the Scripture and meditating on what is stirring inside you, set goals that emerge out. Like, I want to be more intentional with silence and solitude, so I want to spend 30 minutes every morning. Or, gosh, I keep getting this image of forgiving my mom. I need to go back and have a conversation. But set specific goals, and then spend the last hour from 3 to 4 writing the goals down and any other thoughts in a journal. That's so that when you enter back in the barrage of text messages and emails and news and social media, when that comes and kind of sweeps over you, you have a place to go back to and be like, oh, that's right, that's what I've heard. And then prepare to enter back into the flow of life. So as you wait, things will stir. Chances are you'll spend time, like I'd mentioned, feeling kind of anxious and wanting to just get up and run. That's okay. Lean into that. Don't run from it. It's a natural response when you're trying to look through this muddied jar and things haven't quite settled yet. When you feel it, name it, give it to Jesus, invite God to settle the silt, to settle the mud, to clear that inner vision and stay there. Hear what is going on inside of you and what the Father wants to speak over you. So to end, I just want to remind that this is an invitation simply to try. Just try it. Do what you can. 8 hours would be awesome. 4 hours would be awesome. The psalmist invites us to taste and see that the Lord is good. And we can't taste, we can't see if we're not trying it. So 8 hours, what will it be like? Maybe you'll feel a bit of dread or anxiety. That's okay. Just try it and let the Spirit surprise you.